Happy Hump Day, boxing fans. It is Wednesday, and I wanted to choose today to make like a weekly video, obviously recapping the last weekend's action, next weekend's action, giving my 2 cents on that, and any boxing news in between that may happen week to week, right? I obviously want to start off with Danny Garcia versus Jose Benavidez, which happened on Showtime this past Saturday at the weight of 154. If you remember, Danny Garcia had not fought since losing to Errol Spence Jr. at 147, in which he was basically outclassed, even though Errol Spence was coming off of inactivity and that super crazy car accident that just blows my mind how he survived that. I'm glad he did, because that shit was crazy. But this one, Danny Garcia's first fight at 154, he actually looked really sharp. He was using a lot of footwork. His combinations were fast and, very crisp. And he was really impressive in his return to the ring, given the inactivity and given, his first fight at 154. And just what perfect opponent to get your feet wet at 154 than Jose Benavidez, whose only loss was to Terrence Crawford, right? He got knocked out by Terrence Crawford. And then even though he won his last fight, I really didn't think he looked that great, which is why, as much as I want to recognize Danny Garcia looking sharp, Danny Garcia looking fast, Danny Garcia looking like he was doing everything right, I want to also keep in mind that his opponent was already a guy who had lost to Terrence Crawford, which is not really a shame in that, who hasn't lost to Terrence Crawford, literally every one of his opponents, right? Obviously, there's some, people who disagree in those certain opponents, especially at 140. But, no one's beaten it till Terrence Crawford, so it's okay. But he didn't look great in this last fight. Jose Benavidez was an undercard of his brother's fight, I think, in Arizona as well, when he fought David Lemieux, if I'm not mistaken. And he didn't look that great, right? So even though I do want to give Danny Garcia his flowers for his great performance, I do also want to say that maybe that performance was so much greater because he was against an opponent that really didn't have much to offer him other than just headhunting and, boasting around in the ring while not really making any adjustments. And I think that's the part that bothered me the most from Jose Benavidez's, corner, that I didn't really see them give him any sort of direction to go ahead and make adjustments, try something else. It was like he was just headhunting and trying to be the pressure guy against Danny Garcia. But Danny Garcia's counters were just too good and would always keep Jose Benavidez at bay. I really wish he would have hurt him, because I think that Danny Garcia did, to an extent, was, give Jose Benavidez power at least some respect. He did not try to jump the gun and try to knock him out. I would have at least enjoyed a knockdown, especially because after the 5th round, we knew that Jose Benavidez wasn't really doing shit, right? Like, he really wasn't doing anything that was causing Danny Garcia any sort of problem. So I would have liked to see Danny at least be a little bit more aggressive in the way of like, let me just try to get this dude out of here and see what happens. But also, I don't blame him, because again, inactivity and getting your feet wet at 154. And maybe he did respect Jose Benavidez's power to an extent, right? So I'm not mad at him for that, but good for him. Am I super duper impressed? No, not really, right? He did what we expected him to do, which was outclass someone like Jose Benavidez. And hopefully, obviously I do think, because given the fact that he is with PBC, we are going to get some great fights at 154. There's Tim Tszyu, there's Brian Castano, who just lost to Charlo. There's Charlo himself, which I don't think that would be a good idea for Danny Garcia right now. But, there's Harrison was there ringside, who I believe is also from Philly, right? So he does have his options, given the fact that 154 also very much so belongs to the PBC for the most part, right? Like, so I don't feel like he will have problems getting opponents and getting great fights, and I feel like I'm excited to see those great fights. I just don't know how he holds up with those guys, right? Maybe better than with Jose, because he'll have like more of active, right, career at that point. But I don't know. I think he did great, but also it was Jose Benavidez, so I don't know, right? We know that Keith Thurman posted something like, I want the rematch, something like that, which I guess Keith Thurman would go up to 154, I guess now. I don't know what Keith Thurman's doing with his life. Like, he fought in January. It's fucking August. You would think he would at least, fight twice this year. So So, like, I don't know what the fuck Keith Thurman's doing with his life. But, like, I didn't even think that fight was that close at 147. Keith Thurman took the last rounds off, and you could tell that he was just kind of fucking around in the last rounds, and I feel like that's what gave Danny the advantage. But I feel like Keith Thurman beat Danny Garcia pretty comfortably, in my opinion, or just without a doubt. You know, I didn't really think that was a robbery or close like that for it to warrant a rematch. But I guess if that's what Keith Thurman wants to do next, as long as he goes in the ring, I fucking guess, right? But I would rather see Danny Garcia against guys we haven't seen him against yet, like the ones I just mentioned at 154, right? So good for him. As for Jose Benavidez, I feel like maybe it's his time to go from contender to like now gatekeeper status, right? Obviously that's a contender, but I think he either stays in his role as like kind of a contender, gatekeeper at 154, where you push these guys, give them that test of pressure to see if they're going to be able to handle a guy that comes forward and comes at them trying to headhunt, and let that be his role, right? The gatekeeper at 154, because I really don't see him getting another title or title shot, if that makes any sense. But hey, this is boxing and crazier things have happened, so you never know. Now on to random boxing news that had happened. We did see that Joshua Franco has officially left Golden Boy and is now a free agent. I didn't check if he just, outdid his contract and he's just a free agent now, or if he, just didn't want to, renew his contract himself. Those details I haven't seen yet. But point is, he's a free agent, and I think this is a really exciting time for him because he is a champion, right? Just like his brother Bam Rodriguez in that same weight class. So it's really exciting, right, to see where he's going to go next, what being a free agent means for him. I feel like it could open more possibilities to more negotiations, right? He did want the winner of Chocolatito versus Gallo, and obviously that, didn't happen because Gallo got COVID or injured, something like that. And I believe he might get that Chocolatito fight because they're not going to give it to Bam because they both have the same, Mr. Honda as their manager or whatever. So I don't think that they would do that, put them together right away. But I think that maybe Matchroom, DAZN will throw an offer at Joshua Franco to also be in DAZN regardless of not being with Golden Boy anymore, because how cool would it be to have both brothers there, right? To have brother, same weight class, both champions, right? I think that'd be great to have on DAZN, be like, hey, look, we have the brothers over here, and I think that'd be a great addition to the roster, especially because their brother's already there, right? Though I don't think that Top Rank wouldn't also want to throw an offer to him because he already fought in their network, right? Like, people from Top Rank and ESPN are familiar with Joshua Franco because of his fights with that one Australian dude, I forgot his name, the twins, right? The twins, the brothers. From Australia, I believe. I forgot what their names are. But we know Joshua won that title and defended it, and there was a whole lot of controversy with the headbutt and shit like that. But point is, he's fought with Top Rank before, so maybe Top Rank would also want to throw, their own offer at Joshua Franco. But regardless of who he goes with, I think he's going to be a great addition to whatever team because, again, he's already a champion, so you don't really got to do much there to try to sell him. But the fact that he's with his brother on the same weight class as his brother and they're both champions, I feel like that would be great for a DAZN matchroom type thing, But hey, I'm not a promoter, so let's just hope that he gets paid because the little guys deserve to get paid, right? And this is old, but just Joshua Franco ending his contract with Golden Boy reminds me of Ceniza Estrada, right? Ceniza Estrada was very unhappy with Golden Boy. She made it very obvious in her post towards Oscar, her post, very throwing shade at, him not paying her enough. And I agree, women should get paid. And Ceniza's already like a 3-division world champ. She has fun fights. She should be main event, right? She should have that kind of backup from Oscar, who's also from East LA, right? You think that was the thing that had him like this. But she was unhappy towards the end with how Golden Boy didn't pay her enough, or maybe didn't promote her as well as she wanted to, and now she's with Top Rank. I don't know how that's gonna play out for her, given that I don't think that they have that type of opposition for her there, maybe at that weight class. But also, I feel like Top Rank's doing really well with Michaela Meyer, and I feel like this is gonna be a great thing too, right? To have her there too. I think it should be good. So that's two guys, Golden Boy. Two people Golden Boy loses back-to-back. Obviously, I don't know if they... with Ceniza, we know she didn't want to renew her contract. And obviously, with Franco, I don't have that information. But, you're losing two champs in your roster. That's got to sting a little bit. But, they still got Vergil and they still got Ryan, so let's see what happens with them. And speaking of Vergil, let's just move on to Vergil's fight week. It is Vergil Ortiz fight week. We know he's fighting Michael McKinson, the guy he was originally supposed to fight back in March. He at the, what was it called? The USC little arena or whatever, which was then headlined by Alexis Espino, right? That's his name? Is that another one I'm talking about? And Blair the Flair, who got knocked out, right? So Vergil's fighting this guy again, this guy from across the pond, and I feel like Vergil's gonna fold this guy within 5 rounds. I say 5 rounds instead of 3 because I really hope, and I'm really thinking that Vergil's gonna try to at least get some rounds in there, not because he wants to, or because he's not going to be able to knock this guy out earlier, but because it would benefit him to get some rounds and given the inactivity, right? Vergil has had split of inactivity because of the pandemic back in March 2020, and now because of this injury that he received, because, he trains hard. The kid trains hard. As someone who has been in his training camp, the kid trains hard, right? So I wasn't surprised when I saw his condition, because I know that he does push himself a lot. So I was not surprised, right? But I'm glad that he's feeling better, and I'm glad that he's going to go back to Michael McKinson, who, even though his last fight was fucking boring at that same card that he was supposed to headline, he won, and that's, he was supposed to be Vergil's next opponent, so why not keep it that way? I do feel like he doesn't have anything special in him. I watched his fights just for the sake of having something to say about him. He's not a power puncher. He doesn't have many knockouts. He is not like super elusive where it's like, ooh, like Vergil's a pressure fighter. I'm pretty sure Vergil will be able to corner him and fold him like a chair within 5. But he is a southpaw, and I feel like that's why they try to keep him as an opponent, because it does help to see how Vergil's going to react to someone who's a southpaw, right? Regardless of whether they bring the power or the skill or not. You still have to make those adjustments when you're fighting a southpaw. So given Errol Spence, given Terence Crawford, and the possibility of Vergil eventually facing these guys, you do want to see how he would perform, and how he, kind of get his foot in the water too on a southpaw. And I think that's why it would benefit him to get those rounds in, so that he can kind of just test things out against a guy who's not very dangerous. And I think this is a beneficial fight for Vergil. I don't think it's just a whatever fight or a comeback fight. I think that Vergil can really use this opponent to test out his strategy against southpaws without feeling like he, he's in a risk of getting knocked out if he, kind of tries to do some plays in there, right? Trying to test some things out. So I think it's going to be a great fight, given that Vergil always gives us a knockout, and that's what we love, right? But I think that he is going to go some rounds just so that he can get those fucking rounds in, right? Though I would not even be surprised or blame him if he got like this guy out of there within 3. But I think he's gonna get some rounds in. And I know he gets tired of people asking him about Errol Spence, asking him about Crawford, asking him about Keith Thurman, because these guys have no interest in fighting him, and not because they're ducking him, but they, Vergil understands, especially given his responses at the media press conference, the virtual press conferences. He understands that Errol Spence and Crawford are tied within this, the public wanting these fights, the fans demanding these fights, right? So he knows that they're tied up within their own thing. And then Keith Thurman don't even got a belt. And even, Keith Thurman doesn't seem to want to fight anybody other than also Errol Spence or Crawford, right? Errol Spence and Crawford are the main guys that everybody else wants to fight, whether it be new up-and-comers like Vergil and Boots, and, guys like Keith Thurman, who already were champs and now are trying to become champ again, right? Sean Porter tried it before he retired, right? He was already a champ who was trying to get up there again and didn't work with either guy, so he retired, right? So I think the same thing is going to happen with Keith Thurman. I think Keith Thurman's trying to get a shot at one of the guys before he retires, or just turns into this gatekeeper at 147, which is a great gatekeeper. I just feel like the inactivity, again, it's fucking August already, and this dude hasn't announced another fight since January, so I don't know what the hell he's doing with his life. But as long as we get him in the ring, I guess, Going back to Vergil, we know he's been a little spicy on Twitter. He's been a little spicy in the media press conferences where he's kind of, standing up for himself, right? Like, when he got injured, there was a lot of speculation, especially by bigger members of the media, right? There was speculation and them insinuating that Vergil didn't make weight, that Vergil was heavy and that's why he pulled out of the fight, which, again, if you go to Vergil's camp, he works really, really hard. I wasn't surprised when I heard the injury and what the injury entailed, because that kid works out a lot. So, I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad at the kid for standing up for standing up for himself. But I think that does it. I think that was it. Besides, Don King ripping off another one of his fighters. Dubois, I think, hasn't gotten paid for his last show he did with Don King, and I wish I could say we're surprised, we're disappointed, but never surprised with Don King, right? So I believe that was it. If I missed anything, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I promise I'll be posting once a week on Wednesdays, and just, a recap or whatever, but just let me know what you'd like. Obviously, I'm going to try to get more interviews, but I promise I won't ghost you anymore. If I miss anything that you'd like me to talk about, you guys can go ahead and drop that below. I am going to be making a Triple G versus Canelo video, right? Kind of an in-depth type video. And I do want to invite everybody who, if you are going to Vegas for Canelo Triple G, whether it be to attend the actual fight or you're just in town to be there for fight week and you're going to watch it, in closed circuit, to go ahead and hit up the boxing fan, the boxing fan expo, right? We are going to have a lot of boxers be there, sign autographs, sign memorabilia, take pictures. I know Andre Ward's going to be there. He's an inductee this year. We are going to have Sean Porter, Jose Ramirez, David Benavidez, I believe, is also going to be there, amongst others. So I believe it's like $40 to $50. So if you do want to have some more boxing time out in Vegas while you're there for Canelo Triple G, it is the same day. I'll put all the info on the description box so you guys can check tickets out. And if you're there, see you there. And I promise, once again, I won't ghost you anymore, and I'll be doing weekly uploads. So follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and obviously subscribe and comment what you'd like to see next and what you expect from this channel, because I know I've been ghosting you, but I promise I won't do it anymore, okay? I'll see you next time. Bye.